Hello, listeners. A warm welcome to Views on Health. As yet another Monday evening comes by, it's a pleasure to have with me on the program tonight Dr. Santushi Amarasuriya, Head of the Department of Medical Humanities, Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, and Dr. Amarasuriya is also a clinical psychologist by profession. I'm sure our listeners will recall that we had Dr. Santushi Amarasuriya speak on stress the last time around. On the program tonight, the topic is positive thinking. Welcome back to our studio, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
And once again, good to have you with us. So, positive thinking as against negative thinking, I leave it to you. Over to you, Doctor. The microphone is yours.
All right, thank you. So, obviously, when you say positive thinking, you do think, okay, it's about thinking positively. But really, it is about thinking in a more constructive and helpful way in dealing with the situation. So, for example, let's say you've lost your purse. Now, positive thinking is not saying, oh no, I've lost my purse, it's okay, or, I'm fine with it. That's not positive thinking, because that is a bit unrealistic. Positive thinking would be recognizing that, you've lost your purse, recognizing that, you're feeling very stressed out about it, you're worried about it, but then also thinking, okay, at least I found out that my purse is lost now without, going later and then getting stuck and not having any cash on me. Or thinking, okay, I'm glad at least I have my mobile phone with me, or I don't have many credit cards in that purse. And also figuring out, okay, now I've lost my purse, what shall I do? So it's more constructive. It's not just ignoring everything that's gone on and trying to think positively, because when people use the word positive thinking, sometimes people roll their eyes thinking, oh, that doesn't sound right. In fact, I would also say it's not positive thinking. That's a no-no, because that's trying to sort of force yourself. When you say just thinking positive, it's like trying to force yourself to ignore what's not okay, but instead it's about realistic thinking, recognizing what has happened, but trying to think of it in a more helpful way instead of losing it. So, we often say, do you see, or we ask the question, do you see the glass as half full or half empty? I would say it's not about either, it's about both. You see that the glass is half full, but you also see that it is half empty, and then you figure out what to do with it. But when a lot of us really, our glasses are sometimes 3/4 full, but we see the last remaining quarter that is empty. So that is then focusing on what's not okay and what's not right in our life instead of what is quite good. So it is about refocusing and figuring out, there are lots of good things happening here as well. Maybe some things have gone wrong and I need to rectify those problems, but also let me now think about what's good and use that to, go forward, maybe even resolve the problems I have.
So, for example, the purse that was lost, and then positive thinking would be, I'm just asking, Doctor, I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong. Now I need to find it. So would that be like positive thinking?
Yes,
try to find it
in a very constructive way. Instead
where
of
would I have dropped it?
Exactly.
What
so,
could have happened?
It's something helpful. Okay, so now I've lost my purse, I lost it somewhere, and so what do I need to do? It's helping, it's facilitating your future actions instead of just losing it and thinking the whole world, has collapsed upon me. Instead, you're thinking of it, okay, I've lost it, you recognize that, you're upset about it, and then what do I do with it? So it is really, although I started up by, addressing this topic as positive thinking, I would call it realistic thinking.
So this is a situation that most people don't think on those lines. I would think the first reaction that most people would have, maybe I would have it too, is to panic and then you go into the negative side of things.
Yes, yes. So exactly. So we start going on that negative path instead of pulling ourselves back and thinking, okay, now what can I do? And that is what we need to cultivate our ability. So the way we think, our thinking patterns are so very important in terms of the responses we have to life. And if I might go on in terms of, the way we respond to life situations, we have self-talk. You have this little voice in your head. It's like a commentary that's going on, commenting on everything that's going on in your life. You could have positive self-talk and you can have negative self-talk. Often, so when I teach the students, I ask them this question. So imagine that there is this person that knows you extremely well. Has known you for your whole life, and is very close to you. But whenever you go to do something, that person questions. Can you do it? Do you think you have enough skills to do it? Or let's say you get dressed in a certain way, and this person says, "Oh no, that doesn't suit you. You don't look good." And always saying things that make you feel not great. So I asked the students to imagine how you would feel about such a person. And often the response is, I wouldn't like the person, and maybe the person is, maybe it's a well intentioned, but the person just doesn't make me feel good. And then I ask them, do you have such a person in your lives? And some might say no, some might stay silent. And then I say, look at yourself in the mirror, and that person, you might actually have that person in your life, and that could be you, because we are constantly telling ourselves, what's not good. The negative self-talk is, often there, and you're constantly doubting yourself. So it's about getting rid of that type of voice and looking at things in a more realistic way. So let's say you're looking at the mirror and you think, oh, this doesn't look good on me. That's okay. Maybe it actually doesn't look good on you. Maybe that doesn't suit you, the shape of the dress or whatever. But it's not about looking in the mirror and thinking, oh, I'm really ugly and, I can't go out. It's not that. It's about realistic thing. Okay, what works for me? And maybe this looks better for me. So we need to change that talk that we are having. And that then helps us deal with life in a more positive way.
So it's a thing that any person can have, doctor. It's a natural thing, I would think, from a lay perspective.
Yes.
That, a person can think, no, this is not good for me, or I don't feel good about it, or something. So does that is like something like when you spoke of stress and the prolonged side of it, being prolonged stress. Would you say that if all the time we as people, individuals, are negative in our approach, it's not a good thing, obviously.
Yes, yes.
So how does one overcome that?
First of all, we need to recognize what's going on. And just let me elaborate, just use an example of why our thinking is so important. Because thinking is sometimes, it's not factual. So let's say, and I use this example also often with students. So let's say you go for a party, and that party, you don't know anyone, but you know that your very good friend is walking in soon. So you're waiting for your friend, and as soon as your friend walks in, you wave and hope that your friend will approach you. But instead, the person just does not look at you. So I ask the students, what would you feel? So some would say, I'll feel really angry, I'll feel really sort of embarrassed because now I'm waving and this person is not, acknowledging me. And some other people will say, no, I won't feel anything. So then we try to dig deeper and find out what's going on. So what's going on is there's a difference in the way those two groups are thinking. One group, the group who feels quite bad when they're ignored by somebody, is thinking that other person ignored them intentionally. So that is the thought. So your emotions are actually intervening with your reactions. So whereas the people who are thinking, okay, don't react, they think, okay, that person didn't wear their glasses that day, or, that person was thinking about something else, so that type of person will not react in such a bad way. So the thinking really dictates what we feel and what we do. So by changing that, you're able to then change your responses. And the most important thing to remember is, although we think like this, these are not facts. This is not, you're just thinking the person is ignoring you. But do we know the person is intentionally ignoring you? No, often no. So once you figure out, is there something to it? Is there actually evidence for what you are thinking? Then you realize maybe you don't have evidence. So yes, we often think negatively, but sometimes there is no evidence for it. And it's a process of it's an evidence-based approach. Is there evidence for it? Or is there some other evidence saying that, what you're thinking was not right?
So taking that example, I'm at the party and I'm waiting for someone to come. And then that person does come and I'm waving, trying to attract his or her attention, but that person doesn't respond. So what I should do is not think he or she ignored me, maybe didn't see me, it's okay, I can go and talk. The positive side of it.
Yes, so
to change your thinking.
If you know for a fact that this person does not like you, is definitely ignoring, it's a different thing. But if you do not have evidence for it, then perhaps you need to go and find your evidence. Does that person actually not like me? Because by us just assuming things, we then feel very sad. We might go away from that party and then we might not, realize that we were all wrong. So it's figuring out whether what you're thinking is actually right or wrong. And really, I like to say that our thoughts or what we're thinking, you need to think of yourself as like you're standing on the platform of a train station. Your thoughts are coming and going. Some are good thoughts, some are bad thoughts, some are right, some are wrong. So the problem is we board some of those trains. The negative thinking, we board that train and we go on that path. But really, it is going nowhere and it's actually the wrong destination. You have got things wrong. So we need to figure out whether we are thinking very, very realistically or not.
Thank you once again for a very lucid explanation of how one thinks and how one perceives a situation and then acts on it or reacts, whichever way, whatever you want to call it. It could be acting, reacting, and then it's negative for the person concerned. Whereas the other person concerned is just happily carrying on with whatever he or she is doing.
That's right.
Interesting, Doctor, how easy it is to get into the wrong side of things, whereas one can be on the right side of things.
Yeah, it's often because we are basing our actions on assumptions that are baseless. So what we need to do is then figure out, realize that you are thinking in a way that might not be very helpful to you. And then you think, okay, is there a different way of thinking about this? Do I need to think that, something happens, you think, oh, I'm not good enough, I can't do this. You need to then think of, okay, how helpful is it for me to think that? And when you say, I'm not good enough, do you really know that you are not good enough? Is there other evidence pointing towards that in your life? Or is it that you just did not do that particular task well? So maybe you reframe it and say, okay, in this instance, I didn't pay enough attention and that's why things went wrong. But that doesn't mean that you are not good enough. In instances, maybe you do not have the skills to do something. But how useful is it to keep telling yourself, I'm not good enough? It's going to bring you down. Instead, you think, okay, maybe I'm not good enough at this point in time, but perhaps I can learn how to do better. So it's always thinking of things in a more constructive way. And that's what we need. Because when problem hits us, we keep going down this, the journey we go down might really not take us anywhere. And instead, we need to sort of bounce back and go along a path that actually helps us to resolve the situation.
So my next question, Doctor, is this. We talk of, in this series of programs, especially in on the health program, about starting a lot of things when children are young. To inculcate the proper habits in everything. Take health, take food, that they learn to maybe eat on time, as far as possible. There may be exceptions, of course. Eat the right type of food, not to indulge in what is not healthy, so on and so forth. So something like this, positive thinking. Can you put it into explain to children that they need to think on these lines so that they will grow with such thoughts?
Of course, it's very important for children to understand that sometimes you might go wrong, but what is important is to learn. When you make a mistake, the important thing is to learn from that mistake. So, and that is important for teachers and parents to have a very, very sort of a good environment. They create that environment which fosters growth. So issues come up, but let's learn from our issues, and then recognizing that we might have limitations. There are certain instances that we can rectify them, but there are certain instances that we might not be able to rectify them. So being very realistic about things, and always reflecting about what's going on, what am I feeling. So all these emotions that we have, from anger to happiness to sadness, many times all we do is react. So, we talked about stress earlier. All you see is a person's behavior, the person who comes to the workplace and is screaming, throwing all the, files all about. That's the reaction. But the stress is what's going on internally. So to help kids also to understand when I'm feeling, angry, or when I'm feeling sad, I am feeling sad, recognizing that, and then doing something about it. And then when they tell themselves something, like, I gave the example of I'm not good enough. You see, why are you saying that? Is there a different way to think of it? So it is an ability that we need to cultivate, because our thinking patterns we can train ourselves to think in more positive ways, and that then helps us have healthier, more happy lives.
So it helps if kids are also put through
That's right.
That line of thinking.
Yes.
Interesting, Doctor. So is this a situation where positive thinking, if it's not positive thinking, and I do come across people who cannot come to terms with positive thinking, or all the time are negative?
So your most automatic response might be thinking of the worst thing that might happen. So yes, it is a certain way of training that you need. Sometimes people are very optimistic and some are very, very pessimistic, and it might be within their personality to always think of the glass as half empty, and they cannot see the other side. But it is not something that you cannot learn. It is about training ourselves. First of all, recognizing what's going on, and then doing something about it. So once again, it is hard work. It's about reflection. You don't just react to life, but you sit back, you watch what's happening, and then you try to, deal with it and acknowledge it, and try to sort of find a different way of dealing with your issues.
So, Doctor, going on from there, positive thinking is it a subject that you deal with at the Faculty of Medicine? In your department?
Yes, so we do have some teaching activities on thinking. So we even go on to things like critical thinking, positive thinking, and really that provides a basis for the rationale of trying to help people think in a more positive way. We introduce them to the principles of cognitive behavior therapy as well. You might have discussed this in other programs, where we train a person to identify their emotions. We help them identify the thoughts linked to the emotions, and then we tell them to go along a very scientific pathway. What is the evidence for the thought you're having? What is the evidence that goes against the thought you're having? And is there an alternative way of thinking? And if you were to think in that way, how would you feel? So that is really the basis of cognitive behavior therapy, and what we use often with people having certain mental disorders, in training them and empowering them to deal with their own issues. So similarly to the party situation, what is the evidence saying that this person actually doesn't like you and intentionally ignoring you, or is there some other evidence for it? So it is that process that helps people then start looking at other things in life also using this same thing. So it takes practice. It is a very, very scientific method as well. It takes practice, and once you get into that, you get into the practice of doing it, then things happen very automatically.
But it has to be evidence-based.
Evidence-based as in it is realistic thing. It's not just sort of ignoring everything that's bad and then trying to think of what's good. Instead, you look at reality, and reality then makes you react in a very realistic way.
So this is what when you teach, you expect our future doctors to go out there and help people.
Yes. Understand themselves as well. And also help people to think of, situations that they're having in a more realistic way.
Help people to understand themselves
as well. Yes.
So I think overall this augurs well for the one state of health.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's not just eating and drinking.
It's about mental well-being.
Yes, mental well-being overall.
Yes.
That's interesting, Doctor. So I think it's been really wonderful going into this topic of positive thinking, which we're not focused on in this series of programs. I must say that, I must thank you for coming with this topic and addressing it for the benefit of our listeners. So as time is catching up with us, what would be your take-home message?
Okay, so as I said earlier, positive thinking, or rather realistic thinking, also takes some effort. But we need to figure out what is that voice that I have in my head. Is it telling me positive things, or is it telling me very negative things? And if there are very negative things, do you think that this is is it a fact, or is it just thoughts that I'm having? And why not figure out a better way of thinking about it if it's just thoughts that really have no base? So it's having that sort of detection system in terms of understanding your thought processes, challenging it, and then thinking of things in a better, healthier way. And all those are necessary sort of, as I told you, it's like a train station. There are good things, bad things, right things, wrong things that are going on in our minds. Just all the stuff that are unhelpful, just say shh to it and tell it to go away, because just let those trains pass by and board the trains which actually take you somewhere, take you to your destination, and take you to what you want to do with your life.
Does this promote discipline within oneself?
Yes, there is a lot of mental discipline there. Yes.
Thank you, Doctor. So on that note, we end this interesting discussion on positive thinking. To you, Dr. Santushi Amarasuriya, Head of the Department of Medical Humanities, Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, and the clinical psychologist. Thank you very much once again for being with us on the program. It's good to have you on with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to Prabha Veerasurya for technical assistance. I'm Fatima Razi Kader saying good night and hoping to catch you next Monday, same time on Views on Health.